super interesting what you said about trying to find fun and enjoyment in those times where it might not be so fun. I guess because surely there's got to be, as much as you love to do something, there's got to be a certain percentage of that work that is not going to be fun. And so
Oh, who's determining that percentage?
that's again yourself, of course.
That's right. That's right. So here's a game. Here's a game. Here's how um I always had enthusiasm, but I also had growing up I kind of a surface enthusiasm, and it deepened in my 20s. I was kind of angry, and then in my 30s I kind of deepened my understanding of things. But it was only like maybe 5 years ago, when I was like my mid 40s, um, where I came up with this idea really of this existential shift of how to see things. And so I first, again, I've been doing personal growth work my whole life. So I came up with this idea of going, well, let me look at my happiness. How happy am I? What's going on there? Um, and so I played this game where I basically would track my happiness. An alarm would go off every hour or whatever. And I go, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy do I feel? Oh, like I'm a 7. And then an hour later, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm a 2. And then an hour later, oh, I'm an 8. But I tracked it.
Mm.
And just by tracking it, so it was probably had, 12 or 15 measures, sort of checkpoints, data points per day. By the end of the week, and I would kind of average of the morning or the afternoon or the evening. And by the end of that week, I realized my numbers were going up. Just
Interesting.
just by just by noticing them, just bringing attention. Literally, I didn't try to do anything different. I just noticed, and that was really interesting. Then week 2, I was like, okay, whatever I check in at, let me see if there's something I can do to like bring up the number. So if I'm a 2, let's see if I can get to 2.5. If I'm a 5, let me see if I can get to 5.5, maybe 6. If I'm a 9, let's see if I can get to 9.5 or 10. A deep breath, a walk around, move my body, whatever. And then once I started doing that, my numbers got even higher.
Oh
And
wow.
literally after about a week of that game that I played, I've been on this consistent, like probably I average 9s like most of the
That's
day. And I'll
awesome.
dip
Yeah.
in. Yeah, something happens and I'll dip or whatever, but like I'm pretty consistently at 9s. Um, because I realized how to just access that mindset frame.
Mm.
So here's practically how so I'll give you 3 instances of like how a challenge happens, but we have way more power than we realize. So number one, a micro example. I'm a dad, and my kids, my wife leave the lights on, right? The choice I was making was to grumble, "Hey guys, come on, turn off the lights. What are you doing?" Like cranky dad, right? So, and I would, and then and I try to get them to turn it off and blah blah blah, and it was drama, right? And I was like, well, who's choosing that? It was me.
Yeah.
I was like, why would I choose that? It's not working. They keep leaving the goddamn lights on. So I was like, well, what if I shift that? What if when I notice they left the light on, I walk over, I go click. And when I go click, I let myself feel joy.
Mm.
And it was great. It's been great. So I was like, oh, so they leave the light on, and go click, click. So it feels great. So that's a tiny, tiny little behavior change, right? And now here's a bigger one. My wife was like, hey, you know what? I'm doing the dishes all the time. Can you just help me do the dishes sometimes? And I was like, oh, I don't want to do the dishes.
Mm.
Come on, And, and then I was like, well, hold on a second. Who chose that reaction to doing the dishes?
Mm.
So I was
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
well, yeah. Again, it's just chopping wood and carrying water. I go, okay. I put on a podcast or put some music, and I see it like as a yoga routine. Now I love it. I love
Yeah.
doing the dishes. So that's a medium one. So I do that every week. A couple times on the weekend. It's like I really look forward to doing them because it's all dirty and messy and whatever. And then I slowly clean them and I organize the way I put them around. It feels fun for me to create that experience.
Yeah. Mm.
Beautiful, right? As opposed to cranky
Yeah.
dad
Yeah.
husband that doesn't want to do it. So here's the third one, much bigger. I had these pains in my stomach. It was about that same period where I was making these significant existential shifts, and I realized, oh, I need to get my appendix out, right? And my appendix, if it bursts, it could be fatal, right? So, but I was on it pretty quickly. I went to the hospital, and I'm in the hospital with an appendix. I gotta get a surgery, but I was like, well, how do I want to choose my experience? How do I want to frame this experience? And once I realized I had the choice, it was like a 2 day vacation. It was like I
Mm.
got some good drugs and they put me in, and then I woke up and I was like, people are waiting on me hand and feet. Like I don't have to do any of my other stuff. I get to just journal all day while I'm in bed. And I talked to this weird guy who's in my hospital room with me. It was like a mini vacation, dude. So and once that happened, I was like, okay, I got it. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is what we make of it. And in tiny ways, in medium-sized ways, or big ways, we have so much power to really create our world in the way that we create stories for other people,
Yeah.
especially if you're a creative person. So yeah,
It
cool, huh?
is absolutely amazing how few people know that you can choose. It's a choice to be happy or have fun. I grew up with a mother who would always be so negative, and she always chose to look at the negative side of things. Whenever she would like cook and drop a spoon on the floor or something, she would sigh deeply and like, oh my god, this ruined my day. And that's kind of how I was shaped most of my teenage years. And then one day, I don't remember how it happened or how I got to know of it. I just started to not think that way. I just started to, whenever something negative would happen, I would stop giving power to it completely. And I
Nice.
kind of did similarly to what you did with the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I would notice how I felt. If I felt bad, I would just, okay, that's just how I feel. But if I
Yeah,
felt good, I would start to tell myself, wow, I'm really grateful for feeling so good. And my life
wonderful.
changed tremendously. I've
Yeah,
been so much more happy the past few years than I've ever been in my entire life just by switching my mindset. It is insane. And I can't believe that so few people know about this.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, that gratitude is really significant. And I have a tip for you. Gratitude is amazing, but the energy of appreciation, I consider, and I think you might too, if you think about it, is even a little sweeter and better. It's
Mhm.
similar. Like gratitude suggests just a hint of like, whoof, I'm glad this something else did. There's almost a relief in gratitude. Like, I love this happened and I'm glad this other thing didn't happen. Whereas appreciation is more just love. It's like, man, I
Mm.
love that I have this challenge. I love that we have this conversation. I love that people I don't even know all over the world are going to listen to this conversation and they might feel a little bit happier after having this conversation, or they might go, "Those guys are full of crap," and then like, and that's fine, and that's we've helped them on their journey in their way, and who knows, and maybe 10 years later they go, "Oh, you know what? I saw those guys a while ago. Now I know they're right, or not, or who knows?
Mhm.
Maybe they come up with an even better way." But like, appreciation. It's such a wonderful thing. It's a let's see what it's a appreciation is a wonderful sort of word that speaks to this experience of opening and love and acceptance.